The idea is not to injure yourself, but the idea is to destroy muscle cells and to injure muscle cells. That style useful or can be productive for everyone, even natural bodybuilders. Yeah, absolutely. You need more recovery time. When you train this hard, like Sergio and I have been, I mean, you need to recover. I mean, he's used to like resting, 3 days or so and doing legs again. When we were training like this, it's like 5, 6 days and you're just starting to think about the leg day again, okay? I used to train legs every 2 weeks and I got great results doing that. But what was important for you to know is the intensity was in outer space. The intensity was higher than I could even imagine. It was just so crazy intensity. The more intensity I was able to employ, the frequency had to be reduced. In other words, I could not train that way as often. Okay, so yes, anybody can use this style of training. It will be and is effective for anyone and everyone who's willing to go there. You have to be careful. The idea is not to injure yourself. The idea is not to take undue risk. That's correct. But if any exercise doesn't have a risk, it's not worth doing. When an exercise has an inherent risk, it usually means it has an inherent effectiveness as well. You have to balance the benefit to risk ratio. There's an exercise, most exercises that I use are extremely effective that have some risk. If there's too much risk and not enough effectiveness, I don't do it. And whenever any exercise becomes that way to where the balance is there's too much risk, I will abandon the exercise, yes. Okay? The idea is not to injure yourself, but the idea is to destroy muscle cells and to injure muscle cells, which of course is hypertrophy. I really think, and as soon as I think about hamstrings, I think about one exercise. That's the Nautilus leg curl, the lying leg curl. And not just doing the exercise for reps or for heavy weights, but by doing both, of course, like I always recommend for all body parts. But at the end of your set, when you can't do any more, having your partner give you assisted positive reps. I think stiff-legged deadlifts are really tough on your lower back. I did stiff-legged deadlifts for the 1975 Mr. Michigan. I almost didn't make it to the 1975 Mr. Michigan, which I won, because my lower back was hurting so bad. In 1981, we wore big trunks. I remember going to the 81 Olympia and I was at the hotel room in Columbus, Ohio, and I was putting my trunks on, my sweatsuit over top to walk to the auditorium, and my buttocks were cross-striations in my buttocks, and you could see muscles in my buttocks, and I'm like, God. I said, Joe, my training partner's name was Joe, I said, too bad we can't show this muscle. And 20 years later, everybody's showing their buttocks. And this happened to me by doing, of course, a stringent diet, but by doing the leg curls, as I suggested, really work my buttocks and my hamstrings in an unbelievable way. So whenever I think about hamstrings, I think about what I just told you. Well, it's impossible to squat flat-footed when I have my feet that low on the platform, first of all. So from a purely anatomical, structural conceptualization, my heels are going to come off the platform. Okay, my heels will come off the platform if you position your feet correctly, like a duck with your heels together and very low on the platform. Yes, it does put a little excess stress on your knees, but if you have enough flexibility, which you should have, it will allow you to really train the vastus lateralis more predominantly. And that's my goal. The goal of hack squats is to really develop the vastus lateralis, the muscle which gives you the teardrop look. And by coming on your toes and bringing your heels and then coming to the top of the movement and flattening your heels out, it really brings the vastus lateralis into play. Keep in mind that it's impossible to shape a muscle. I'll repeat that. It is impossible to shape a muscle, but you can develop one head more than the other. The quadricep has 4 different heads, and it's possible, most definitely with this technique, to put more stress on the side of your quadricep, the vastus lateralis, and give you more of a teardrop look. My legs were never really that big, but I had that teardrop, okay? When I walked on stage, it was like it gave me that kind of look that nobody else had in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Finally, I think people are getting it, and they're learning how to train legs. And these people nowadays, pro bodybuilders nowadays, have unbelievable legs. But back in my day, nobody else had that. That's why I stay on my toes and bring my heels off the platform and flatten my heels out. But one thing I do at the very top of the movement, before I lock out or partially lock out, I do tighten my buttocks very hard. So I'm stretching and completing the movement by tightening my buttocks, but my heels naturally, if you do squat correctly and do the hack squats like this, that's all you'll need. I mean, people nowadays do squats and they do hack squats and they do this other exercise, leg presses. I mean, leg presses is really an inferior movement, okay? It's like, why do leg presses? But if you do this hack squats incorrectly, if you do the squats incorrectly, and your back gets most of the training, you have to do a lot of other exercises like hack squats, which, I mean, like leg presses, which are completely ineffective, but to tire the quadricep out before you go home. But if you squat correctly and do hack squats like we're suggesting, you won't have to do much else. The idea is not to let the gym be your entire life. The gym should make your life better. That's old school, really. This is what Arnold taught me to do when I was his student. Well, first of all, I think everybody has tremendous potential. One of the things you have to realize is that you cannot be a victim to your genetics. Your genetics must be a victim to you. And that was one of the thought processes that I had as a young man, as a teenager. I was not going to be a victim to my genetics. I mean, there's many bodybuilders around the world that I see that have tremendous potential, but we all have potential. You can't let anybody tell you you can't do something, not even yourself. But looking at some of the athletes that I meet on a regular basis around the world, and I'm here in Hungary, as you know, at the moment, one bodybuilder that comes to mind is Peter Molnar. Peter Molnar, he doesn't know how good he is. He's a tremendous physique. I don't think he really wants to be an international world champion. I think he finds great satisfaction having a sensational gym here in Hungary. It's a small gym, and he does great work with everybody there. It's a great family. But I did tell him when I was there last year, people still, you have a lot more to give on stage yet. You're giving a lot to people in this gym. And it's tremendous what you do for your clients and for the gym members. But Peter Molnar has tremendous potential to really be sensational. I just don't know, I don't think he has the mentality to be a superstar, at least not yet. My question that I ask myself all the time when I work with people, though, and I look at them and I want to see what's inside me and them, okay? The attitude, the hunger, the thirst, the I'll do anything I gotta do to get there attitude, regardless of talent, regardless of genetics. I look for that kind of energy within people. It's not just about saying to a upcoming champion, do this exercise for that many reps or do that exercise. It's about finding that energy in them and witnessing the energy and having my breath taken away because I see it in them by making them aware of it and saying, go. Once I make them aware of it and they see it themselves, I just tell them and I promote and I propagate just the attitude of going. Not waiting 3 years to become a champion, do it now. Accept that position in your life now. That's one of the things I've said to Sergio many times. But of course, I have many people around the world that I'm meeting on a regular basis. I'm going to Slovakia tomorrow. There's a young man there, Roman, who has huge potential. He was in LA with us working out for a while. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into being a champion. Back in my day, I mean, I did my own diet. I didn't have somebody tell me how to diet. I did my own diet. I was my own coach. We all didn't have coaches. We were our own coaches. We figured out the way to train for ourselves. We figured out the way to eat for ourselves. We established how many calories, protein and carbohydrates, macronutrients that we should eat every day. We were in complete control independently of anybody on stage. And if I may say so, we have a lot of physicality. Everybody's walking on stage close to 300 pounds nowadays. But I think we need more art. By art, I don't need, art drawings and sculpture. I mean art, the energy within, the athlete, to where they just walk on stage and they command applause from the audience. This is what Arnold taught me to do when I was his student, okay? Everybody has talent within them. You just have to ask yourself the question, is how bad do you really want it? And that's your talent. That's your most important talent. Not everybody can do that. Some great champions can't do that. If you can do that, if you can ask yourself, how bad do you really want it? If you want it so bad, you'll do anything for it, almost close to death, that's your talent. You don't even need talent for bodybuilding as far as genetics, but if you have that attitude, that killer instinct, is where you'll do anything it takes and everything it takes, you'll be successful, I guarantee you. When you have more questions, send your questions to Old School. They will send them directly to me and I will answer them. And the last thing I have to tell you about is simply keep it old school. Bye-bye.